Welcome to the Bottom Up Skills Podcast. I'm Mike Parsons. I'm the CEO of Qualitance, and we are once again continuing our adventure with Agile software development. And I hope you're enjoying the series so far. And I hope that you're discovering some of the power of Agile as an approach. And today we're going to talk about values and principles that actually build up the idea of Agile software development. And the reason this is so important is the greatest thing about Agile is it has values and principles. And the most challenging thing is it has these values and principles, and they often get confused as methodologies, and it gets a little bit hazy and foggy in the world of Agile. And I want to kind of cut through the conversation and give you some signal through the noise and help you better understand how these values and principles really play out. And I want to kind of share with you some of my favorite ones and how I've found them to work in real life on real projects, building software, ambitious first generation products. So I really want to sort of give you sort of my lessons learned from these values and principles as well. And just remember, if you're interested in the masterclass where we go much deeper into Agile, just jump over to bottomup.io, where you can find masterclasses on Agile, design thinking, and a whole bunch more. It's all totally free, so just jump over there and start up an account. All right, let's get back into values and principles of Agile. And the funny thing about understanding where Agile really comes from is it's pushing off against the old school, the traditional way of building software, which is generally being referred to as waterfall. And it was slow, bureaucratic, and you'd often get bogged down in a lot of details that actually, in the end, they didn't actually turn out to be the right approach. And so the crazy thing is where Agile comes from is busting all of those problems that we have with traditional software. So let's get into it and let's have a look at the world of Agile as it pertains to these 4 specific values. So here they are. Value number 1 that builds up. This is like first principles, okay, of Agile software development. Number 1 is that individuals and interactions are prioritized over processes and tools. Number 2, working software is what we want over lots and lots of documentation. Number 3, we always focus on customer collaboration, or the partner in our project, over contracts and paperwork. And number 4 is responding to change rather than just following the plan. Now, I want to break each of these down, but they are really brilliant because they solve so many problems. From the top, if you want to focus on individuals and interactions, I cannot tell you this is the critical thing of Agile. If you've got a small autonomous team building an ambitious new product, it is all down to the key ways that a product owner, a business analyst, a designer, engineers, you name it, how these people work together, not just update on a status, but how they look at the facts, how they look at the scope, they look at the user stories, and really work through each and every detail together. So you really want to prioritize these individuals and how they interact with each other. Really, really important. The second one, working software is more important than the comprehensive documentation. The key thing here is your North Star is if you've got great working software that you're testing with users, that is the primary thing that you focus on in Agile. You can always come back to documentation, but the source of truth is working software, and particularly working software that's been tested with users. This is essential so you don't get caught up trying to have lots of nice documents and binders full of documents, but the software actually isn't that good. You switch it around and you focus on working software. Now, the third one is really about collaborating not only internally, but externally with all of your stakeholders. In fact, this is one of the most time-consuming, yet it is still one of the most important things that you need to do, is whoever the stakeholders are, whether they're internal stakeholders and or external, bring them into the picture. Make sure, whether it's through scrums, demos, or showcasing the work as you do it together, make sure that you employ the right collaboration experiences for all stakeholders. Often, a lot of stakeholders are left out of the picture. They turn up at the end. They don't like what they see because they haven't been able to contribute. And lastly, responding to change. It's such a fundamental idea in Agile. And the reason that it's such a strong value is one of the real pitfalls of waterfall is at the beginning of a technology and software project, someone would write a requirements and specifications document. And then 2 years later, when the software is finally delivered, it turns out that those requirements, those functionalities were incorrect or incomplete. And so Agile is about continuously refining them. Now, that can feel a little bit chaotic. That can also be a little bit stressful, and there are ways of dealing with that. But fundamentally, it's about being adaptive to what the best product is for customers. So those 4 values are at the cornerstone of how to think about Agile. And if you're thinking now, oh, geez, Mike, but actually, what do we do? I'm going to give you some of the principles, but I promise you throughout this series, we're going to get very specific into individual roles and tasks, but it's essential to understand these values and principles. Okay, let's keep going. I'm just going to give you a couple of my favorite principles. If you go to bottomup.io, you can get the whole list of all the principles in the Agile Masterclass, but I'm just going to give you a couple that I really like. So one of the principles by which you can start to do and to prioritize your actions in an Agile project is always satisfying customers through early and continuous delivery of value work. I am a big fan, as you know by now, if you've listened to the Design Thinking series on the podcast, if you've listened to any of my work on Bottom Up in any of the masterclasses, work with users. The true tester, the true judge of a good product is your ability to satisfy the end user. So focus on that and try and do it as fast, early, and continuous as possible. This takes all the risk out. This takes out all the uncertainty, because if you have good feedback from users, you'll always know where to go. Now, another thing about software projects is they can get big and overwhelming. So this second principle I really like is always break down work into smaller tasks. And the user story is at the very, very micro level of an Agile project. And I encourage you really to have great epics, themes, and user stories when you're breaking down your work. And if you want to know how to do that, we'll be tackling that later in this series as well. Just quickly, 2 other principles that I really do like. Big one for me is recognizing that the best work emerges from self-organized teams. Now, this is a classic paradigm of freedom versus responsibility. So you do need people that take a high degree of ownership in Agile teams, but the message here is put people together, empower them, let them self-organize, and the best work will come. So the critical thing to doing that, though, is making sure you put the right type of people in there. And lastly, one of my other favorite Agile principles is providing motivated individuals with the environment and the support that they need, and then really just trusting them to get the job done. So this can be time, space, resources, the tools to do the job. And if you give those to motivated people, you will be amazed at how well they can create a high-performing team. Now, one of the critical things that I would encourage you to do is, if you want to give those people support, is to employ something like a brains trust, where they can come to you when they want with problems, challenges that they're facing, and that they can present the problem for feedback, suggestions, tips and tricks. And this should be not like a direct reporting manager to subordinate environment. It should be the opposite. It should provide these individuals with the chance to come for help and support. And if you do that, you'll really start to build an incredible amount of momentum and velocity in your next Agile project. So there you go. We've got values and principles now for Agile. Don't worry, because if you're thinking, okay, Mike, that was pretty broad, that was pretty big picture, because in the next episode, we're going to break down Agile into methodologies. We're going to talk about all the great stuff, whether it's the Mikado method, Holacracy, or the big one, Scrum, which you might have actually used or heard about yourself. So there you go. These values and principles, they set us on the North Star. And it's from this that you can not only build great project teams, you could even build a great company. So I hope this has helped you kind of orientate a little bit more around the world of Agile software development. And I hope you're ready to go and build a bold, ambitious, great new product. So whether you're a designer, developer, or entrepreneur, I hope you're finding the right skills, tips, and tricks to go out there and do the very best work possible. All right, that's it for values and principles in Agile software development. I'll catch you next time on the Bottom Up Skills podcast.